Hey, Damon Gettier, Damon Gettier & Associates, Realtors, Broker by Real. Today we're going to talk about the 6 things you need to consider before making an offer. The reason we go over this is the last thing you want to do is think about all the things you want to do when making an offer the day you're making an offer. Let's think about this ahead of time. Let's plan this out a little bit. Let's be prepared. We're going to go over the 6 things you need to consider before you even think about making an offer. Like, I want to buy a house. I'm thinking about buying a house. These are the 6 things I need to iron out. So I know I've mentioned it before. I'm not saying to brag. I'm just telling you from a position of experience. 20 plus years in the industry, 20 plus years selling houses, thousands and thousands and thousands of houses sold. And I see this every single time. And we try to help the consumer and teach them and educate them along the way because we want them to have a fun experience. The more prepared you are, the more fun this experience will be. And I will tell you, the one thing, if I give one great big piece of advice, is everything you saw on TV, on HGTV, forget it. It's all fake, okay? We're gonna talk about real estate today. We're gonna tell you the things you need to know. So let me do a preface to the 6 things. First thing, please use a local lender. Please use a local lender. And in all my videos you're gonna see, and I've talked about this over the last 20 years in the business, use a local lender. Every lender gets the money from the same place. Every lender pays the same amount for money. Every lender is gonna make the same, within reason, amount of profit on a loan. You're gonna pay either points or you're gonna pay interest rate. One of the two you're gonna pay. And whichever one you pay is gonna balance out the other one. So use a local lender. No problem with shopping them and making sure that they're treating you fairly, but use a local lender. I'll go one step further and say use a local reputable lender. If your agent suggests a lender, there's probably a reason they suggest them. Okay, and the reason probably is that lender does a good job. Keep in mind, your agent does not get paid until you close and you're moving into that house. Their goal is to get you closed. Once they get closed, then they get paid. You don't close, they don't get paid. They want you to use a lender that's going to get you there the easiest for all parties involved. Please use a local lender. That's just a preface. Okay, consideration number 1, do you have a house to sell? I know you're like, I don't care about that. I want to buy a house. Well, the first consideration is, what are you going to do with the house you have now? And it's kind of like the old adage, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? The house that you own now comes first, because unless you qualify for both mortgages, some people do, most do not. Unless you qualify for both mortgages, we have to sell one to buy one. So we have to know a couple things. 1, how much is that house worth? Is there equity there? Are you gonna make money? Or are you gonna have to bring money to closing? You know, what am I gonna have to do to get that house sold? Does it need repairs? Does it need updates? Does it need anything to get it sold? We need to know first and foremost, do you have something to sell? Let me back up to the lender for 1 second. When I'm backing up to the lender, we at Damon Gettier & Associates, we make sure that you can buy before we do sell your house. And so we have seen cases where people sell a house, don't qualify for a new house. They're under contract with the old house, and now they're forced to sell a house that they had a mortgage on, that they were on time, that they could afford because they don't qualify for a new house. And now they move from owning a house to a rental situation because they don't qualify to buy now. And so we 100% of the time always recommend, you know, when you're buying a house, talk to the lender first. I keep stressing this lender because it's such an important, integral part of this whole equation. You need to find out whether you qualify to buy. Then, once we know you qualify to buy, do you have a house to sell? If you have a house to sell, let's take a look at that. When you take a look at that, how much equity do you have? What do you owe on it? How much are you gonna make on it? You know, what repairs need to be done? Like, what's your net gonna be? What are you gonna have to invest in this next house? Consideration number 2, are you pre-qualified? If you come to us, our first consideration is gonna be, all right, do you have a house to sell? Second is gonna be, are you pre-qualified? Again, I do not want you to be homeless. Like, my goal as a real estate agent is never to have somebody sell a home that they don't have to sell and then not be able to move into a new home because they weren't qualified. So we want to make sure you're qualified. And we want to make sure you're qualified for enough, because if you're just going to move from, you know, a 200,000 to a 200,000, unless you want to make that move, if you're trying to move up and you're just making a lateral, then it's probably not worth doing anything because there's still cost involved. You probably just want to stay where you are. So we want to make sure you're pre-approved for a house, again, through a reputable local lender. I don't want you calling a Rocket. I don't want you calling anything. I don't want to use a Rocket, Homes dot whatever. I don't use a local lender. And we use what's called the choke rule. Like, if you can't go choke them if they screw it up, you shouldn't be using them. And you can't use something, you can't choke the internet, all right? And you can't drive to Washington State to choke somebody if they screw up your mortgage. You want the choke rule. You want someone local that is responsible. If they mess up your loan, which means they messed up your life, that you can go physically choke them. I don't advocate choking them, please don't sue me. Don't choke them, but you want someone that you could if you had to. When you get pre-qualified, there's some language that these different lenders use, you got to be cognizant of. Pre-qualified typically means that based on what you told me, based on the assets you said you had, you qualify for a house. We don't like those, okay? Because what happens is typically this is, you call a lender up and they say, well, how much do you make? You're like, I make, whatever, $30 an hour. All right, that's awesome, great, $30 an hour. All right, and what kind of bills do you have? Well, I got my mortgage and I got my car payment, and that's about it. Okay, sounds good, $30 an hour. Well, if the lender doesn't go into depth and say, well, how many hours a week do you work? Assuming you work 40, well, 30 times 40, 1,200. Well, if you're a dental hygienist and you work 30 hours, it's 900. That's $300 difference a week. That's $1,200 difference a month. You qualify for two different houses here, two totally different houses. And when you told them your car payment, you forgot about that credit card. Oh my gosh, you meant to tell them about the student loan, but you forgot about the student loan. All that stuff counts in your debt to income. We don't like pre-qualified. I don't like a pre-qualified. I don't like a pre-qualified. We do not like pre-qualified. We like pre-approval. And a pre-approval means that they pulled your credit report, they verified your income, which means they have your pay stubs. So we're not missing anything. We're not messing up. And it benefits us. It benefits us, the real estate agent, but it's much more benefit to you because the last thing you want to do is go look at $350,000, $400,000 houses when you qualify for $200,000 houses, because there's a big difference between a $350,000, $400,000 and $200,000. And once you start looking at $350,000, $400,000, you're like, man, this is nice. I love this house. And then you get, oh, I only qualified for $2,000. You're going to be disappointed. Not to mention the waste of time and effort. It's just not worth it to you it's a day's difference between a pre-qualified and a pre-approved. Let's go ahead and get pre-approved. Get the tax returns for the lender, get the pay stubs, let them pull your credit. And once they do that, they'll be able to give an accurate picture of what you're looking at and what it's going to cost you. Consideration number 3 is going to be what's the source of funds. You have two things you have to think about: closing costs and cost to close. And lenders love to, especially internet lenders, love to spout closing costs because closing costs are easily defined. It's, the actual cost of closing the house. It's not the cost to close. And there's a big difference. Closing costs, let's just say closing costs on a house, on a $200,000 house, closing costs, actual closing costs, which would be your points, your prepaids, your homeowner's insurance, title insurance, those are closing costs. Those aren't the cost to close. The cost to close will include stuff like down payment. So if you're doing a FHA loan and you go to lender Rocket Mortgage, okay? You go to Rocket Mortgage, they're like, oh, your closing costs on this house are only gonna be $4,000. Like, oh my God, $4,000. I'm in. Down payment's 3.5%. So a $200,000 loan, that's $7,000. Now you're looking at $7,000 plus $4,000. You're looking at $11,500, but they didn't tell you about that. They told you about the $4,000. Closing costs and cost to close, two drastically different things. You need to know the total cost to close this house. How much money do I have to bring to the table? What check do you need from me? And then you get with your real estate agent, how am I going to get that money? If I don't have it all, what's the source of this money? If I don't have it, where am I going to get it? Which we can negotiate with the seller and get a lot of it. Can't get down payment. We can get closing costs. We can get all that from the seller many, many times. But you need to know what the source of your income is, what the source of the money is, where you get it from. If you're getting a gift from friends, from family. If you're getting a gift from family, that needs to be ironed out day one. Because there's a lot of questions your lender has to ask, because unfortunately, just the way it is, your family has to show them their bank accounts too. And some people are willing to do that, and some people just are not willing to do that. And if they're not willing to do that, we need to cross that bridge very early on, not later on. And the older generation, like, I don't want anybody looking at my stuff. It's my privacy. I don't want you knowing how much money I said I'd give you $5,000. I don't want you to know how much money in my account. It's not that we're trying to be snoopy. It's that the federal government, who is going to sit there and make sure these loans are legal and making sure that money actually is theirs. What they don't want to see is that the seller gave your grandma $5,000 so that your grandma could get you $5,000, because the seller's actually contributing more than is allowed. They want to see where that money came from and actually make sure that money is real money. That being said, they're going to see 2 months bank statements. They want to see that money's vested in that account. It's been sitting in that account. So I just touched on it, but I'm going to go into it a little more depth here. What is the difference? So number 4 is going to be, what is the difference between closing costs and down payment? The difference between closing costs and down payment is the money that all loans require. Most loans require down payment. VA, USDA does not require down payment. The rest of the loans require down payment. Down payment could be as little as 3%, usually 3.5% or 5% minimum down payment. Okay, that's minimum. You can make more, that's minimum. That is the bank saying, They want you to have skin in the game. They want you to have money invested, your money. They want to see that you have the ability to save some cash, pile it up, so that you can come to the table as an adult and say, hey, I've saved this much money. I've saved 3.5%, 3%, 5% of the down payment of this house. And I'm going to put it down. I have skin in the game. That's your down payment. It can be more, but the minimum, unless it's USDA or VA, the minimum is going to be 3%. Usually 3.5% FHA, 3% conventional on some loans, mostly 5%. Anyway, those are nuances your lender can tell you. Your closing costs, the cost to close, okay, that is your points, your prepaids. Your prepaids will be prepaid taxes, prepaid insurance. So when you go to closing, they're going to collect an entire year's worth of taxes up front and then another 3 months, so that they always have an escrow account. The bank keeps an account to pay that money out of, because it's your house, not their house. They're going to pay them for you to make sure they're paid, but they're going to collect it from you in advance. Same thing with homeowners insurance. They're going to collect a year plus 3 months. The year is because they're going to write a check day one for 1 year's insurance. They're going to have that 3 months, so that when they collect that insurance over the next year, every 12 months, every month, they're going to collect a little bit of insurance money from you. They have that slush fund, so that next year when the insurance comes due, they can write that check. Then you have your settlement fees, you have your title insurance, you have recording fees, you have your survey. The government fees is going to be 5 to 9 line items of just taxes that the government pays you, or government charges. And sucks to be you. Welcome to America. We're going to pay taxes on everything. But they're going to collect that money. That's the two different things. You have your closing costs and you have your down payment. Two totally different things, but you have to have them both. Consideration number 5 is when you're writing an offer and you want the seller to pay closing costs. You need to write it very specifically and not be ambiguous about it. And so what we highly recommend you say is the seller agrees to pay X dollars towards purchaser's points, prepaids, and closing costs. And the reason we say that is we've seen poorly written contracts before where it says something like seller agrees to pay closing costs. Well, in our contract, closing costs are defined, okay? Surveys aren't closing costs. Title insurance is not closing costs. So you could get to the closing table and be thousands short. A well-written contract written by a professional, competent real estate agent is going to save you money. It's going to protect you. So make sure that when you're writing your contract, you spell out what you want the seller to pay. Clarity will save you money. So be very clear in what you're asking for. So consideration number 6, talk about money. How much money do I need besides down payment, besides closing costs? How much money do I need in addition to that? Because the home buying process isn't as cheap and simple as everybody thinks. And we have multiple people before say, I'm getting a no money down loan. I don't need any money. You have to have down payment, earnest money. Like you have to show the seller I'm serious. How much money are you going to put down saying, I'm buying this house and I'm serious? We suggest, if you're putting down 3.5%, put down 1.5%, 2%. Like, show them you're serious. If you're putting down $7,000, put down $3,500. I'm serious. I'm writing a check. Here's $3,500. That money's credited to you at closing. You don't lose that money. That money's credited to you at closing. But you're showing I'm serious. I'm motivated. I want to buy this house. Put my best foot forward. This is what I want to do. Home inspection. Home inspection is going to run you $400, $500, $600, $700. Depends on the size of the house and the scope of the inspection. It's going to cost you $400+ for a home inspection. Radon inspection is going to cost you $100+ for radon inspection. We'll probably get radon more later in the series. Radon is a highly deadly gas that happens naturally and it's all over the area. So do you need a radon test? Absolutely. Septic inspection. If you ever heard the expression poop runs downhill, it does until it's clogged. Then it goes uphill. And so you definitely need a septic inspection, okay? We highly suggest that you get your sewer line scoped, send a camera sewer line, same thing with the septic line. If you don't, I can promise you've never cleaned up sewage that's backed up in a house. If you've ever cleaned up sewage that's backed up in a house, I can promise you would think a couple $100 they're going to charge you to look at your line and tell you if it's intact and in good shape is the cheapest money you ever spend. It's definitely the cleanest money you will ever spend. Thermal inspection. A lot of people do these on houses now where you can use a thermal inspection, a thermal imaging device, and see if there's any live wires that are hot in the house, any panels that are arcing, any lights that aren't acting right, fixtures that aren't acting right, outlets. Thermal inspections are becoming more and more popular. And then the appraisal. Appraisals will cost you $400, $500, $600. That is your expense. It's not the seller's expense. The seller knows what they think their house is worth. The appraisal is something the bank wants you pay for it to see if the house is worth what you're paying for. This doesn't happen as much now, but it does go run in cycles, is going to be foreclosures. If you buy a foreclosure, you're responsible The utilities are off, the house is winterized on a foreclosure. If you want inspections, you're responsible for A, turning those utilities on, paying for them, B, turning them off, and C, re-winterizing that house. And so that will cost you anywhere from probably $400 to $1,000 to do those three things. De-winterize, turn them on, turn them off, re-winterize. So it costs you from about $400 to $1,000 to do those things. So that concludes today's video. One thing I do want you to do is think about these 6 things, these 6 considerations. Start thinking about them day one of, hey, I want to buy a house. Let's not wait until we're ready to put a contract on a house. My agents all the time ask me, it's like, I asked them about this and they said they didn't know because they hadn't thought about it. I'm like, well, when did we talk about it with them? Start thinking about these things day one so that when you are ready to make an offer, you already know what you want to do. You already know what you're going to do. You've already had the conversations with the lender. Everything's set in stone. And if you need a lender advice, if you need advice on what lender to choose, please, Damon at DamonGettier.com. Ask me. Be happy to tell you. Love to tell you and avoid a mistake rather than you make the mistake and then we have to try to clean it up. If you found value in this video, please like it. Comment below if you have any questions that you would have liked us to ask or answer that we didn't. Comment below any considerations you think of that we might not have mentioned. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell notification so you can stay updated with our future content. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.